on. We've got quite an aggressive call scheduled for today, so this is the January 21st live webinar for the group coaching program featuring our weight management core. So John started us off with an interesting question. You want to repeat that, John?
Yeah, how do you know when it's time to take a couple of days off and take a vacation? Is it when you come in and you're not motivated or excited, like I found myself actually since the beginning of the year?
And that certainly is a tell, isn't it? That's a sign. And my mindset, it's always about extremes. And I talk about this, the concept in physics is called polarity. And that means you can't have up without having down, so the opposites. You can't have cold without knowing hot. And anything taken to an extreme goes from a positive to a negative. So if somebody is very nice and kind and people like the person, take that positive characteristic to an extreme and that person gets walked over. That person doesn't get things done. Somebody who is aggressive and assertive and bottom line type of person, that's a positive attribute. That person gets things done. But take that to the extreme and they are aggressive and arrogant and push people away. So any trait taken to the extreme goes from positive to negative. And the same thing here. I happen to have a kind of a personality that I don't take vacations unless they coincide with what my clients are going to be doing. So, for example, most of the people I would want to talk to on Martin Luther King Day were not going to be in, so I took the day off. If most of the people would have been in, I would have worked. And that's how I take my vacations, based on really when I default to because I can't get a hold of people, like Thanksgiving or whatever the major holidays are. And on the other hand, we've got to talk about a concept called sprint jog. Even back in my football coaching days, it was a matter of sprint jog. It was an intense, focused, all in, all effort performance followed by a rest. Now in football coaching, that duration was 7 seconds. And so we had I don't know if you happen to watch Maria Sharapova's tennis match yesterday.
No.
Well, she was doing something. Nobody made any comment about this, but I suspect she was doing something called anchoring. And it went to the third set, and she was twice she had match point that she was about ready to lose the entire set to an unranked opponent, and you can see her making a fist as she gets ready to receive the serve, and she pulled it out and won the match. But that anchoring, that making a fist, is associated with the psychological state, the state of focus, the state of peak performance, the state of maximum effort, and then there's a rest. And then you focus and a rest, and that's what we had our athletes doing. And as a matter of fact, making a fist was their anchor as well, which is the anchor is a stimulus response that you condition your body to respond to. But going back to that opening statement about how do you know it's time to take a vacation, for me, it's if I start making mistakes, that's usually how I know if I'm working too late. If I start making mistakes, I better stop. If I'm stale, like you said, John,
yeah,
that's time to take some time off. Because the interesting thing is that when you take time off, you might think, well, you're losing behavior, you're losing performance, you're losing results. But when you come back, you're going to get more effective results from your actions. So that's just one of these things that you have to monitor, and you have to know yourself. So anyway.
Okay, thank you.
So let's start off. I want to do a check-in, and then we'll get into a review of program steps. And then I'm going to take time on today's call, as promised, to talk about the concept of Baroque music and what Baroque music can do to performance. This call, of course, is being recorded for those that are not able to make the live call but listen to the recording of it. So a couple of things I want to check in with before we start. And here's an email from one of our members. Let's see, doing fine. I'm still overeating healthy food. And I am still struggling with how to space my eating since I get up so early. I wake up at 4:30. I eat breakfast. I try to eat breakfast, he says, although we don't use the word try. Try to eat breakfast around 6. I am then eating at 10:30 and 4, a little more around 7. I'm eating less at each meal, and I adjust the spacing. Have a bag of carrots and celery with me today. I learned to always have something with me, often a small bag of nuts. My health is great. I'm not losing much weight. Now, this is our member who has lost about 30 pounds, is hitting a plateau. I'm not losing much weight at the moment, but my clothing is looser each week. I do have a very sore knee from walking a lot. Not much I can do about that. It comes and goes. All right, so my comments about this, and again, thank you for the interaction and thank you for the feedback. My comments about this are a couple things. First of all, the overeating healthy food. Did I ever know that one personally? I would cook 6 chicken. Oh, I'm going to have to mute you, John. I would cook 6 chicken breasts.
Not me.
It's Tony.
Oh, hi, Tony. Okay. Anyway, sorry I accused you, John. I'll know to accuse Tony next time. But anyway, I would put 6 chicken breasts on the grill. Very healthy meal, very healthy food. And I'd eat one as I'm seeing if it's done. And now I'm down to 5, and I'd eat another one, and before you know it, I've eaten them all 6. That's a binge. And so that's going to put on weight. But here's the thing about the good news is it's good food, yes, but still overeating is overeating. So here's the comments about this. We have a boundary. We have a program. And if you're off of the program, if you're not in maintenance, I would suggest that you stay as close to the boundaries of our program as you can, because we have broken eyes. We can't sense. We can't tell by how we feel. It's just like going back to my example, being in an airplane in the clouds. I can't trust my feeling about what the aircraft is doing because of the limits of human perception. In the clouds, I have nothing to be in reference to. I don't know what the plane is doing. And I can remember once, this was potentially very serious. I had a 4,000-foot descent in the clouds. I couldn't.
And you didn't know it?
I didn't know it. Well, I knew it because I'm looking at my instruments. As soon as I was given a final clearance by approach control, and it was Bonanza 919A Quebec, left turn to I guess it was 170. Clear to intercept the ILS, maintain 3,000 until intercepted, something like that. And so I had a descent and I had a turn both at the same time, and at the same time that put me into the clouds. So there's no reference, and all of a sudden I'm descending and I'm getting down to my altitude, and I scan my instruments and I see I'm in a 4,000-foot descent. That's almost straight down. That's what we suspect happened to JFK Jr. And, well, I corrected for it, but the point is that I couldn't sense it. I couldn't tell it. It didn't feel like that. I didn't really realize how straight down I was until I broke out of the bottom of the clouds. And then I'm looking down. I'm in almost straight down. So that was actually kind of scary. The bottom line there was I was going too fast. I need to slow down on those approaches. But anyway, so I have to be in reference to my equipment. Now, I had, this is really a personal best for me. I'm very excited about this. I had my best weigh-in last week at 120, what was it, 129.2 excuse me, I'll have to look it up. I put it as a record. My weigh-in was 120. Is that what I was saying?
Yeah.
172.8. And that's the lowest I've ever been in my life. I would have weighed more than that when I was born. BMI was 24.5%. That's my record. And anyway, the 172.8. And what happens is we have a system. Now, when I stood on the scale, I tell my wife, all right, it's weigh-in time. I thought I was going to be heavy. I'm still pinching fat around my waist. We can't trust our own senses. We can't trust our interpretation of how we think we're doing. And I stood on the scale and I said, wow. And I know what the secret is. I know what puts me down at that lower weight. It's when I travel, I don't bring oatmeal. I don't like to freeze the oatmeal, and I don't like to bring it cold, and so I just eat the yogurt and the fruit and the flaxseed meal for breakfast. And usually I don't have a salad during lunch that next day, because that's usually going to be the day I'm speaking. And so that reduction from the menu, so to speak, results in that kind of a weight loss. So it's really a diet within our program. It comes out to be, where I'm taking a little bit of food away, and that's the result. Again, that's the input giving us predictable result. But anyway, this problem with the overeating healthy food, it's a matter of going back to the structure of our program, because we have the definitions, we have the boundaries, we have the precise measurement. And then once we execute that as best as we can, if you're eating out with your clients, if you're traveling, you do the best you can. Although this came to my mind about one member in particular who is accepting the thought that they're just not able to control this because of so many times that they're eating out with client events. And then I say, here's some precision probing. What if you could control it? And I like to look at myself. What if I was in a circumstance? One of our coaching commandments is what I can control, I must control. If I was in a circumstance where I'm having constant meals out with clients, I don't know what I would do. I would think that I might bring my own food. But if that's not the case, because sometimes the restaurant will not allow you to do that because of safety issues, but I guess they don't feel that they can take responsibility to put your food in a microwave, and it might be awkward to do that anyway. But if not that, then I would have a conversation with the restaurant, and I would say, I need 6 ounces of protein, I need 6 ounces of steamed vegetables, I need for myself 12-ounce salad, and can you do that? I don't care what it costs, just tell me if you can do that. So the question, again, the statement that I'll refer back to is, you have far more capacity to create the circumstances and events in your life than you are aware of, as opposed to what are you accepting as being certain? A lot of different ways to say this. What lies are you buying into? What are you accepting as being certain? And I love that picture of the squares. And as a matter of fact, if you have the day book, I have the day book here because I'm going to reference some of it today.
That was yesterday's, wasn't it? Yesterday's?
I don't remember. Let me go back and see when it was. Oh, yeah, yesterday. That's right.
No, the 17th.
The 17th. And what I do in the day book, let me get my webcam going here for you. What I do, and I recommend everybody does this also, is I don't know if you can see this, at the bottom, I put in the day and the year. This way, when you keep on going with this year after year, you can see that, like, for example, the 17th call was Saturday, 2015. Next year, it'll probably be Sunday, 2015. But what we're embracing here is repetition. reinforcement over time, spaced repetition, and you're gonna read this with different eyes every time you go through this, 1 year after another. But I love this. What are you in reference to? It's this is such a magnificent illustration, and we can't trust our own perception, so we're in reference to our plan. And so one of the things that we know is that there's no snacking. Well, that's the true interpretation of our plan, is there's no snacking. And if you are hungry, well, everything, cause and effect, action, reaction. No one can see. Did I take my webcam off? Okay. Action, reaction. You just have to look at the bottom line is, what behavior am I doing and what's the result of my weight? So I've been grabbing a handful of blueberries. I go to Costco and you can buy blueberries for $7, real big, nice blueberries. I buy about 7 of those, and I've been grabbing a hand of blueberries every now and then. That's been my diversion from the strict application of our plan. Okay, well, just like one of our members is eating carrots and celery, carrying that around with them, that's a diversion from our plan. Okay, what are your results? So I step on a scale and I have a record weight. It's okay to continue to do that. If I start to gain weight, I remember once I got the maintenance, I added 4 ounces of rice to lunch and dinner. Then I gained weight. Take it out. Although, keep that rice around, because I had my cell phone dropped in water, and I put it in a bag of rice, 48 hours, good as new. Anyway, nice to know information, right? But anyway, regarding the eating early, if you're when I wake up just like about this same kind of time as well, I wake up today, for example, a 3:50 a.m. wake up, come down, read a page of the book, do my meditation, go off to the gym. I don't eat breakfast until I come back from the gym. So I'm eating breakfast today. I ate at 6:30. That puts me 4 hours. 10:30 would be too early for lunch. I'll extend that to 5 hours, so I'll have lunch at 11:30, maybe 12. Drinking beverages, water, some soda, diet soda in between. And then I'm back on track, so 12, and then at 5 o'clock for dinner. However, if you're waking up early and you're eating earlier, then you might need to have another metabolic meal. So now you're outside of our program, because our program calls for 3 weighted measured meals, nothing in between, nothing after, and the absence of flour and sugar. So now it becomes a dosage. How you divert from this depends on how your body's responding. Some people might need less food than I give them. Some people might need more. And so if you're eating your dinner at 4 and you're hungry at 7, why not have 6 ounces of fruit and maybe 6 ounces of yogurt as a good metabolic meal? It's a dosage that you just see how you respond to. And send me an email. Let me do this experimentation with you. So anyway, that was the check-in that I wanted to do. And remember about exercise. We exercise for fitness, not for weight management. That's a dual impact that you get, of course, the weight management aspect. But it's and we need to be doing high-intensity exercise that's monitored by our heart rate, so that you're getting an increased heart rate. There is a particular call that we dedicated to exercise, so if anybody has particular interest in that, let me know. I'll send you the link to that call. I am in discussions, by the way, with my website folks, and we're gonna have a member section. It's in development. So a couple other things in checking in before we get into today's concept. I was doing my research today on the elliptical, and I'm reading a scientific magazine, People magazine, and this is an article about why I gained 42 pounds for TV, reality star. And I looked at that and I said, the only reason I kept that is it brought back a memory that if I all I needed to do, if I wanted to gain 30 pounds, all I would need to do is eat flour and sugar. Just add flour and sugar back into my diet, and bam, it's an inflammatory response. I just heard on the news the other day that there was something said about pizza being the #1 cause of obesity in children. And or I don't know if that's exactly what the news said, but pizza sure does taste good, doesn't it? And that's a memory. And it is a poison. The body responds to the flour in an inflammatory way. A friend of mine works for a company, his wife works for a company that does salad dressing. They gave me 2 bottles of salad dressing from their company. Sure enough, the first bottle, the first ingredient was sugar. So that's not going to use that. The second bottle, about the third ingredient, was honey. Not going to use that. And the interesting thing is that his wife thought that that second bottle didn't have any sugar in it. Well, that's honey. If it's in the first 5 ingredients, any form of sugar, we don't use it. All right, so let's continue on, and we're definitely going to get into our content today. And program steps, as a reminder, read 1 page a day of the daybook. All of this has scientific reasons for the recommendation. Meditate 5 to 10 minutes every day. Scientific reasons to do so. Follow the food plan. And again, if you're off the food plan, monitor your results. Not liking the results, get back to the strict guidelines and boundaries of the food plan. The 6 P's, precise previous planning prevents poor performance. That's number 8 in our coaching commandments. Weekly client prep. Recommendation is that you're filling that out and sending it to me. Behavioral contracting online. You tag what's important. You influence your observations. You influence your opportunities. You change what you see when you plan. Attend the live biweekly webinars or listen to the recordings if you're not able to. And this is a program of a commitment to personal excellence, anchored by a common denominator of weight management. Okay, I want to give you this from December 14th. And December 14th is, this is something I have yet to do this, but I'm going to do this. I guess I have to put it on my behavioral contract and put a $100 fine. You know, after I do that, it'll get done. What I'm referencing is that I want to laminate this, put it on a card and laminate it. Anyway, December 14th call was a formula to overcome procrastination. And it starts with this thought: I don't have to do something, but I could. So this, John, will help you also in what you started off today's call with, just not being too motivated to do your tasks or your key performance indicators for the day. So let's say in my world, this is about making prospecting calls, opening up my database, getting my tasks for the day. I don't feel like making these calls. So this formula would be, I don't have to make these calls, but I could. Look at how this is going to release the pressure. Can I allow myself to feel this? Feel what? Feel the resistance that I'm having. Feel the lethargic lack of energy that I'm having. Can I allow myself to feel this? Yes, I can. Metacognition. This is what our meditation does. Step 2. Could I let this go? Could I let this feeling of not being excited, not wanting to make these calls, can I let that resistance go? Yes, I can. And number 3 then would be, will I let this go? I can answer no and say, no, I'm not going to participate today. Yes, I will. When will I let this go? Well, how about now? Could I allow myself to get excited about this? Now, what I love about this is it's so permissive. It's not forcing myself to change my physiology. When you have this allowing attitude, you're going to shift the neurotransmitters. You're going to shift the chemical responses that your brain is sending. You're going to create a release of dopamine, which is a motivational focused neurotransmitter. You're going to create this site, and if I allow myself to get excited, I'll also create the release of serotonin. And serotonin is an opiate drug that the brain produces as a neurotransmitter communication between nerve cells. So I can shift my physiology with my thinking, which is really going to tie into today's call. So let's continue on. And I just did a bookmark. One of my recommendations for everybody, where appropriate, is to become an author. And if you have an interest in this, send me an email and maybe we'll talk offline about what's necessary for you to become an author. But definitely something changes in your introduction. Now, the New York Life folks might have, well, not might, will have difficulty in becoming an author because of a compliance issue, just like Wirehouse folks are not able to become an author and state their opinion because of compliance issues, but in many cases that's not an issue. But anyway, if you do write a book, you want to have a bookmark, and this is my new bookmark. I designed it.
Bob,
yes,
Bob, I've got your old one that only has the three core principles.
That's right. This is the new one, and I've added the fourth. And so number one are 4 core principles. I do what I say I would do. We'll talk about the minimum level objectives in more detail when we get back into our coaching commandment study. But
Can you send me one of the new one?
Of course I will, yes. And let me make a note. Okay. And number 2, so a major part of our program is I do what I say I will do. Be careful with what you say you're going to do, because falling short is not a part, it's just not acceptable. Number 2, another major part is I'm better off as a part of a team, that I can never be alone. This is the concept of synergy. Again, I'll get into more details on that explanation when we get into the coaching commandments. Number 3, accountability. I am the source of all that I experience, versus going victim and blaming. Real core. I just love all of these. And number 4, I am committed to being of service to others. And to make this more proper, it would be, and I am of service to others. I just didn't want to be so long on the bookmark. Here's something that influenced my thinking. I am a pretty tough critic of other speakers and other authors, but when I find something I like, I'll shout it from the top of the hill. And this is by the 5 Laws of Stratospheric Success by 2 folks, Berg and Mann. They're network marketing, direct marketing gurus. Their book is The Go-Givers. And yes, I would absolutely recommend their book. Go to Amazon.com, see if somebody's selling it for a penny. But anyway, buy the book. These are the 5 laws that they talk about. The law of value. Your true value, your true worth, is determined by, hold on, I can't see, I got my video camera. Your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. This has been particularly helpful to me. If somebody can't afford my fees, I get off of this ego that, well, you can't afford to have a caliber of speaker like myself, and I will work with them on a case-by-case basis, because my true worth is not determined by what I get. My true worth is determined by what I give. So your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. A second way of thinking is the law of compensation. Your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. And that, again, what's my key performance indicator? My company, I measure 2 things. 1 is number of bookings, and 2 is revenue. But if you think about this, compensation, your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. Part of the way that I am of service to people would be if they cannot afford my fee. I will work with them. And I trust that if an organization can afford my fee, that they'll pay it, as opposed to getting me for less because they know that I'll work with them. This is a give back into the industry. But the law of compensation, your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So if I'm committed to making major income and I have my targets and my business plan for 2015, and I don't feel like making calls, well, I'm not going to be able to serve people if I don't make contact with them. Then I get a heavy-duty rejection. I just got to keep going on. I'm not going to be able to serve people if I allow rejection to derail me and to shift my physiology. Third, the law of influence. Your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Well, in the financial services, this is all about fiduciary. Everybody's talking about fiduciary responsibility. And then I get a kick, Tony Robbins inserting himself into the industry. That'll be another conversation for another time. But anyway, it's your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first, which is what the fiduciary versus suitability conversation is in that industry. The law of authenticity. The most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. I have this conversation with quite a few people about transitioning their business to full service so that they are really a life coach for their clients. And that goes to many different industries. It's most recognized in the financial services industry with your question of what does money mean to you? That's your first life coaching question, but it's also applicable to other industries as well. You're a mortgage broker. Well, you really become a very important part of your client's life. Excuse that phone ring. There's nothing we can do. We're going to have to let that go to. We're going to have to let that go to voicemail. Excuse me. That's my website, folks, calling about the members area. So the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. So that would be inserting yourself into the lives of your clients. That's your most valuable gift. And then their fifth key principle is the law of receptivity. The key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. I have this conversation with my wife. Sometimes she's not a good receiver. And I say, there's such a gift in the giving that if you don't accept somebody else's generosity, you're really stealing that gift of giving from them. So the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. Now, I have several statements on my desk that I read quite frequently. And again, this is another way, John, of changing your physiology, changing your mindset. And one of these, well, I have these on a card, and you can see I just read these. Let this sit this on my desk and just read it. And another card underneath here that of major. We'll go over these. This will be one of our calls one day. But anyway, the find the joy and share it with others. The heart that gives gathers. So think about this. The heart that gives gathers. Just about everybody that I work with, particularly in the one-on-one coaching, is active in volunteering. In some way or form, they're volunteering. The heart that gives gathers. I love this one the most, probably. It's one of the most beautiful compensations in life that no man can sincerely try to help others without helping himself. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Anyway, I love these types. Here's another one. It's not the things you get, but the hearts you touch that will determine your success in life. Yeah, excellent stuff. Here's another one. Training and practice. There's an old warrior saying, the more we sweat in training, the less we bleed in battle. That goes with our concept of precise preparation. But anyway, so just wanted to talk about those concepts and what's really underlying my fourth core principle is about a commitment to service. This is what's underlying that commitment to service. All right, so let's transition now into something that I always speak about in January, and that is the concept of the Baroque music. I don't know if you can hear the Baroque music in the background. Can you hear that in the background? I'm on a headset.
I hear mine.
Okay, so I'm on a headset, so you may not be able to hear the music. But let me transition the slide, and this will play some Baroque music. This is a very beautiful piece of Baroque music called Pachelbel in Canon D. And here's the thing about Baroque music. Baroque is the time period, 16th to 18th century. During that time period, the music had a particular mathematical construction. And what it did was, what you're listening to is largo tempo. One of the best sources of largo tempo would be my own CD, because I hired musicians to play and record only largo tempo pieces of a variety of Baroque music compositions. You can't buy something like this in the store. So go to my website, bobdavies.com, and order the Baroque music CD. Or if don't really want to do that, then buy it yourself or go to Pandora or get it for free or download Baroque music. I have my own CD playing in my CD player. The moment I open up the office, that CD gets played, and it's non-stop throughout the entire day. Why is that? Well, the rest of this call is going to be talking about why I do that and why I recommend that you do that. The 60 beats a minute definitely has an impact in our brainwave state, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. But let's talk about something that's really interesting research. What's it? Susumu Ono was a geneticist. How do you say that? He was expert in genetics. Let's say it like that. And I have an article that I was happy to have found that I have kept from January 1988, which is really a fascinating article. And here's what it shows, and I'll show you a little bit of that article, the real life article, later. While searching, so Susumu Ono, a geneticist, while searching for the chemical origins of life, Susumu Ono found something unexpected: a waltz. Bored with the tedious mathematical equations, the geneticist decided to convert chemical formulas for living cells into musical notes. So DNA is A, C, T, and G, and he prescribed, I don't know how he did it, how he prescribed what genetic code gets what musical note, but anyway, he converted chemical formulas for living cells into musical notes. He figured listening to the complex genetic codes rather than staring at them would make elusive patterns easier to detect. In the process, Ono, who worked in Southern California at the Beckman Research Institute in Duarte, discovered that genes not only carry the blueprint for life, they also carry a tune. Ono found genuine music, like music in the Baroque era, classical in structure, sometimes with an uncanny similarity to the works of great composers. So look at what he did. He took the genetic code, the DNA, he had musical notes assigned to the A, C, T, and G, and when he expressed this genetic code, this structure was very similar to great works of Baroque music. And because Baroque music is a mathematical construction. There is a math, we live in a world of math. We live in a world of science. We live in a world of energy. And translated into sheet music and performed on the piano, a portion of mouse ribonucleic acid, a genetic messenger substance. Sounds like a lively waltz. Parts of mouse RNA waltz are dead ringers for passages in Chopin's Nocturne, Opus 55, number 1. It just, think about this. The mathematics, we live in a world of energy and we live in a world of information. Music is energy, is organized energy, organized mathematics. There's a similarity of all things here, more than anyone ever suspected. Art imitates life. This is not surprising. Nature follows certain physical laws. The universe obeys them, as does the process of life. Music follows the same patterns as well. The same patterns that govern the movement of planets and galaxies also appear in genes and in music. Talking about the patterns of life, I don't have this in the day book. It is in my 1.2% book. It's about the mathematics and the Fibonacci numbers and the patterns of nature. We'll see if we can make that be the content of one of our calls, the patterns of nature and the mathematics. It's very interesting. Anyway, the musical score within a cancer-causing gene sounds somber and funeral. So he took a gene that's destructive, cancer, and when he assigned the musical notes to it, it sounded like a somber tune. And while the gene that creates this transparency to the lens of the eye is filled with thrills and flourishes, airy and light. Interesting. Reversing the process works as well. So converting the music to the chemistry. So you take the music and you assign genetic DNA coding to it, so the notes into A, T, C, and G. When he translated the Funeral March by Chopin from notes to chemical equations, entire passages appeared identical to a cancer gene found in humans. I just think that, now, is this science that really is substantial about music? Not really. This is a very controversial subject. Mozart effect is very controversial. But it's an indication that says this is beyond our capacity to understand. Here's the actual article, and I just quote. You can see to the right is some of the formula, and where he took the A, T, C, and G, and he put it to the genetic coding. I just think that this is indicative that there is so much going on in the universe that is beyond human perception, that we're just not aware of. What if it's true? What if what scientists are saying about Baroque music can enhance human functioning? Well, let's use it. Let's find out. Now, Dorothy Redolek is another researcher, and she did something with plants, and I'm going to talk about that shortly, but she made this statement. We are finding that the universe is composed not of matter, but of music. All matter is simply a form of energy, waves and pulsing vibrations. All matter is a form of information and atoms and energy. Look at this research she did. The musical note G at 192 vibrations per second is the same vibrating per second as the color deep red, which is the same energy vibration as the compound iron. Note A is 213 vibrations per second, the same vibrations per second as the color red-orange and the compound copper. Look at this. Everything's interrelated. Everything is energy. Musical note B, 240 vibrations per second, the same as the color yellow, same as the compound zinc. There's a lot going on beyond the level of human's ability to comprehend. We really do live in an information world and a world of energy. And that's what our brain is an energy transformation machine. Our brain takes an electrical impulse and translates it into a chemical response. So we're taking electricity into matter. Dorothy Redolek, she wrote a book, The Sound of Music in Plants. And what she's famous for having done is a plant experiment where she had variety of chambers of plants where she piped in different type of music. So one chamber she piped in rock and roll music. And what she found was that the plants had limited growth in response to the rock and roll music. Well, what is rock and roll music? Rock and roll music is a vibrating energy of a certain vibration. And it was an irritant and retarded the growth of the plants. The plants grew away from the bounce of the back of the wall of the speaker, of the sound. They grew away from the speaker. She noticed a pronounced impact on the growth of plants to rock and roll music. And that would be the hard metal music. She also piped in Baroque music. When she piped in Baroque music, she found that the plants had the greatest growth of all. They grew towards the speaker. They grew towards the back wall, the bounce of the sound off the back wall. They had thicker roots, healthier plants, even more so than classical music. What's the difference? The difference is the beats per minute of the music, beats per second, excuse me, of the music. 60 beats a second for humans reduces our heart rate, puts us in a state called entrainment. Anyway, here's a picture, and you can look at this, and I mean, look at the stunted growth to the rock, and very pronounced growth to the largo tempo Baroque music. And you think about this, with time-lapse photography, you can see that plants are not silent creatures. They are growing, there's movement, and they have an intelligence. They're seeking light. Think about it. A plant can take energy from the sun and convert it into sugar. It's really absolutely amazing, the intelligent design of the universe. Anyway, here's another picture of her plants to classical here and rock on the left. And here's one more with the acid rock. Look at that, destructive. Now, what does this prove? Does this prove anything that's beneficial to you or I? Not necessarily. It's an indication that music is energy and the energy affects other living things. So we can leave it at that. That is an indication. So let's look at Cleve Baxter. Cleve Baxter was a famous lie detection expert in New York. And what he did was he hooked up electrodes to the plant. And then and you can see in the picture on the left is this lie detecting machine where he's able to measure electrical activity in the plant. And you see the bottom right picture where his electrodes on the plants. And what he's famous for having done is he took a look at the impact of different events on plants. He took brine shrimp and put the brine shrimp in boiling water. The moment that the brine shrimp were killed by the boiling water, the plants registered heightened activity. Well, what's going on there? Do the plants have a consciousness? Not like anything we would know. And you talk about the projected energy of thoughts. And I'll show you an example of this. But the other day, I was outwitted by a spider. I woke up early. I saw a spider in the corner in the kitchen, on the floor in the corner next to underneath a cabinet we have. And I said, I'm going to go into my office. As you know, I have an office built attached to my house, but a separate building. I'm going to go into my office. I'm going to, because I didn't have my shoes on. And I get dressed for my workout, and bring my clothes for the day to the gym. And so I didn't want to, I don't know if I should say this on this public recording because my wife would get angry with my wife is going to capture the spider in a glass and release it to freedom in the outside. I'm going to kill the spider. But anyway, who knows? It might be a black widow that could be dangerous to my children. But anyway, so I decide I'm going to go into the office, read the day book, do my meditation, and then when I'm leaving for the gym, I'm going to just step on that spider when I have my shoes on. And I did all that, and son of a gun, I walk into the kitchen. It's gone. It is gone, and there's all the remnants, the webs, everything's gone. did I communicate to that spider? Did that spider sense my intentions? Before you dismiss that as a ridiculous question, look at what happened with Cleve Baxter. Cleve Baxter wanted to see what would happen if he burned one of the leaves of the plants. So he went and he got a match. When he got the match, just the thought of burning a leaf of the plant registered a tremendous electrical spike on the plants. Look at this. Look at this. Number one, he taps the plates with a pen, so he's making sure that his arrangement is working properly. Number two, thinking about the manner in which he could threaten the plant's well-being. Now you're getting a spike because he's thinking about it. Now he's got the first thought of obtaining a match to burn a leaf. Look at this. Look at he's reaching for a match. Look at the spike, as if he's communicating to the plant, as if the plant knows. He left the room to get a match, returned down to its baseline. He returns with the match. Look at what it does. Goes right back up. I mean, this is just, at the very least, interesting information about the unseen energy, the communication of all things. Anyway, brainwave states. One of the things that Baroque music does is it reduces our brainwave state from a beta active state, high energy intensive state, into an alpha state, which is a more creative, reflective, higher energy effectiveness state. When you are doing your meditation, you're in an alpha brainwave state. When you're falling asleep, this is wakefulness. You go through an alpha. Deep meditation, REM sleeping is theta. Deep sleep is delta. We go through all these different stages. Here's the energy vibration of the brainwave. Here's another couple of pictures of that. But one of the things that we find that the Baroque music does, particularly the 60 beats per minute, is it reduces the brainwave into an alpha brainwave state. What this means to you is it's very restorative, it's very restful, and it increases creativity. So something about the rhythm of the music. Did you know that we are genetically wired to respond to music? We're genetically wired to respond to rhythm. And in fact, it was something about the songbirds and being able to respond and notice out of the clutter of inputs of sound. Listening to birds sing is something that we tag as humans as important, because when birds are singing, there's no predator. And in fact, we share, the only other species that we share this ability to have a rhythm with is birds. You ever see a dog bopping around to music? You just don't see it. But I promise you, you put a child in a room or you put an adult in a room and you play different types of beats, you're going to see movement. Here's a snowbird. Have you heard of this? The parrot that is susceptible to sound and rhythm. Check this out. Snowbird happens to like the Backstreet Boys. Look at this. This is a parrot with rhythm. Is that something else? That's absolutely bizarre, isn't it? So I want to play a very short video about how music affects your brain. Anthony Carboni. So let's watch this. Can you hear this okay, by the way? Can you hear that, John?
Not very well.
Anthony here for D-News. Research has shown that brainwaves will resonate with the beat of music.
I hear it, but I can't understand it.
And your heartbeat try to match the beat of the song. Now, humans and songbirds are the only two kinds of animals on Earth that this happens to, which means on some fundamental level, we are wired to respond to music. Now, this works in a lot of weird ways. It's been shown that listening to pleasant music boosts your serotonin, which is the brain chemical responsible for music is one of the many regulatory activities that we participate in that involves both hemispheres of the brain. You know, everybody has a dominant hemisphere. You know, that whole left brain, right brain thing.
What a disaster.
People who study physics tend to use both hemispheres of their brain more. Better at lateral thinking and creative problem.
Listening to music also engages your hippocampus. Now that's the bit of your brain that handles long-term memory storage. That's why listening to old songs sometimes brings back memories that you've forgotten. Even somebody with Alzheimer's and dementia can have recovered memories through listening to music. Now before you run off to tell everyone about the magical powers of your favorite Taylor Swift song, you should know that there are downsides to this connection too. For instance, have you ever made a dumb decision at a nightclub? Anyone? Maybe in terms of...
I tell you what, let me stop this because it's not being heard very well and we're running out of time. But anyway, it's I'll send the link to everybody of just that video. So if you don't care to, well, actually, no, you'll get it in the recording, and just fast forward to that video and you should be able to hear it well. If it doesn't come out very well in the record, well, actually, I stopped it, didn't I? If it doesn't come out, I'll send the link to everybody. All right, so what my recommendation is that we use the Baroque music, is that you influence how you think, you influence your physiology, you influence your focus, you influence your neurotransmitters, you influence your chemistry, you influence what you do. And also, what I want to do is I want to stop here so I don't rush through the rest of what I have, and I'll pick this up on the next call. And what I'm going to talk about is called applied kinesiology on the next call. And make a note, Bob, make a note to yourself, disconnect your phone before these calls, but so my apologies about that. Also, remember to accommodate a new member coming in. We've moved our calls to Tuesday. So the next call is going to be Tuesday, the 3rd of February, same time, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, and that's going to be followed by the 17th, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time. We're always flexible on our calls. I put the calls in the morning, John, for you actually.
Thank you.
Originally they were 5 p.m., but I like the concept of starting your day off with very positive concepts like this. And anyway, so we'll end here. And just so my recommendation is get some Baroque music. Again, I'm particular to the piece that I have, or at least the collection that I have. Play it nonstop throughout the day. All music has an impact. Today I listened to I've Got a Feeling. Who does that? Black Eyed Peas. In a particularly difficult part of my core abs today, I put that blasting song on. No, it's not Baroque music, but that blasting music really disengaged my brain from thinking about how tough this exercise is, and it wound up being easy. So let's use this. It's another one of the subtle differences that we use that differentiate ourselves from others. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you on the February call. Keep the emails coming in and keep your prep coming in. Have a great week.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Take care.
Thanks.